Hi, everyone. We're going to get started. Ultimately, I know there's still folks that are popping on here. So we are recording this. If anyone doesn't have the chance to attend or if you want to refer back to it or anything like that. For anyone that's maybe tuning in that I haven't had the chance to meet yet, or maybe you're new to campus, my name is Shannon Bangan. I serve as the Director of Orientation here at MSU. It's been a wild summer. It's been super fun. And then this is just kind of a nice bookend to bring in our incoming class, which is very exciting. I am going to be sending out a bunch of info after this. So I'm going to send out this recording. I'm going to send out beautiful schedules, every single last calendar invite that maybe like the one or two of them that are left. I'm going to update all of that today, and I'm finalizing the space grid, and that's going to be shared out with folks. So that's my promise. And now that I've said it publicly, it has to be done. So all of it will be shared out. If you have any questions, please let me know. Emily Edwards, can you see my PowerPoint? Yay. Okay, so what we're going to be going over today is a bunch of information about orientation. I'm going to give an update on kind of numbers first and where we stand for this incoming class, talk a little bit about just the structure of orientation as a reminder for where we are at in this moment and what we have left, and then ultimately do some overview of the schedule. I also realized I didn't update the dates from this one from last year, but the dates are the 17th through the 19th. So you'll see that reflected on our other slides. We do have some updates from some other campus units that can kind of chime in as we kick off school because there's so many moving parts. And then at the end, if there's any questions or if folks are throwing things in the chat, I'm happy to answer that as well. For anyone that maybe doesn't know our team super well, I also want to highlight that we do have Cade, Ellie, and Aaron on our new student programs team. They can help with any questions that might come up. They've been communicating with students and families over the course of the whole summer. We have a bright and bushy-eyed tail group of orientation leaders. And then we have two coordinators, Trinity and Nathan. They'll also be helping with this last session. So ultimately, a whole bunch of people that are ready for next week, which is exciting. Okay, so where we sit, I know this is a crazy grid, but the things to focus on are the most left column highlights our orientation session codes, as well as the title of those sessions and our dates. And then that first column is going to be where we currently stand as of this morning. We have 1,023 students registered for orientation session 4. You'll notice that's a little bit more in line with previous years. Last year, we had a little bit of a lower OF4 number, but this is actually kind of in line with what we've seen maybe in 2023, 2022. And then ultimately, all of our other numbers reflect there as well. So we have around 3,600 incoming freshmen that we're supporting throughout the summer, as well as during the next few days as we bring students in and finalize this class. So I think that's a tremendous effort for everyone across campus who has supported those students over the course of this summer and as we round out this class, which is exciting. So the big things that I want to highlight when you're looking at that giant grid is that ultimately we are up, knock on wood. We are still up pretty significantly in housing and overall with orientation. We are notably up in transfer and veteran students, and we do have a higher OF4 number than maybe what we've seen in previous years. Orientations 1 through 3, we're pretty used to that number being close to 900, so that was pretty flat overall. In addition to our 1,000+ students we're going to be hosting next week, we do have 465 parents and family members that are registered. I always like to highlight that that's not just the number of parents and family, but that is the number of families, period. They register as a unit, and so that number is actually going to be a little bit higher for parents that are actually going to be attending our sessions. We do continue to still help and support all of our transfer, non-trad, veteran, international students that are completing online orientation and kind of finishing up that piece. Any new students that are registering for orientation today or tomorrow or leading up to the first day, as well as current students that are coming back because we know that they have a lot of questions and needs as well, which is great. So just as a friendly reminder for folks, our transfer, veteran, non-trad, and international students have been completing online orientation over the course of this whole summer. The big priority deadline was July 9th, but for any students that haven't yet completed it, or if they are new registrants, then ultimately we push them to take action as soon as possible. We have seen really good progress, especially in the last few weeks leading up to the start of school. So a big shout out to our advisors as we get a lot of those students registered amongst many other efforts. And we do have our freshman students who have come to campus between our first 3 sessions, and with our final session, we also pre-register our students. So students are completing online orientation, and with that online pre-orientation, they complete things like math and writing placement, a questionnaire, they're lifting holds, and we take all of that information and then ultimately provide them with a class schedule leading up to the start of school. I will touch a little bit more in depth on pre-registration in just a moment and kind of where we stand, because it's been a big effort on behalf of many to get a lot of those students through. Highlight summer start students, they still participate in fall orientation. So if you're still seeing students on reports that have a summer start term but a fall orientation code, that's correct. They essentially are coded in for their fall orientation in Banner. And Gallatin College, they work directly with Gallatin College. I'll touch in at the end of this a little bit of an update that I got from Lindsay Bueller. Grad school, they work directly with the grad school, and our non-degree seeking students ultimately aren't required to do orientation, but they are still working closely with our office in advising to make sure that they can get registered for classes. At this point, we've had about a handful of students already that have kind of come through and worked with our advisors to get registered. So that's great. So for this pre-registration effort, I wanted to highlight that this was kind of an initiative that we ultimately started a few years ago in 2023, and we've worked to refine a lot of our efforts in 2024 and 2025. Over the course of our summer sessions this year, we've been using the auto registration tool to have our students kind of pilot pre-registration efforts. So that has really allowed us to kind of zero in on some of the things that we needed to change leading up to our August orientation. And so a big shout out and thank you to our folks in the College of Business and Engineering, because they've been helping us with that auto registration tool and kind of some of the refinements there as well, leading up to this effort. We do have a pre-registration update in just a moment, but I wanted to highlight, as you kind of look at this giant calendar, there are 2 pre-registration efforts that kind of came to be. So we had our first pre-registration effort July 21st through the 28th, and we were able to get through 715 students that we provided schedules for, and that's a huge feat. So a big giant shout out to evaluators for processing their information, for advisors for working together, registrar staff sitting in the labs. That was great and amazing. This date, or this kind of week, was actually condensed compared to what we were able to do last year. And so we were getting more students through in a more efficient amount of time, which is a tremendous feat as a whole, and really, I think, testament to kind of how we've been able to refine the process and make sure that we're like staying on top of things. We then had our pre-registration final sweep that's taking place today. And so for any students that we weren't able to pre-register in July, we're trying to get them through as of this morning. So our advisors are working through building out their plans, locking them. The tool is going to go in overnight, grab those plans, register students, and then beep, boop, beep, boop, as Emily Edwards just did. And then ultimately tomorrow morning, we'll get a report, and then we'll fix any students that maybe had some weird errors or things that we weren't expecting, and ultimately make sure that we can get a whole new batch of students through. So knock on wood, we'll see where we land, but ultimately, since we've already been able to pre-register 715, we're hoping to land with around 130, 150 students that aren't pre-registered in orientation 4. That's in alignment with what we had last year, but because our orientation 4 is larger, that actually means that we've been able to help more students through, hopefully this summer, than what we were able to pre-register last year. So We are going to then kind of clean everything up on the 12th, make sure we're good to go tomorrow. And our target date to release schedules is the 13th. Students are then able to move into their residence hall if they are an Orientation 4 student starting on Saturday. So that's a day before the rest of our students. So that's August 16th. Our session is the 17th through the 19th. That's when the rest of campus is really going to kind of get busy because that's when students are moving on to campus. And then that's also when we are going to be hosting a lot of our current students, transfer non-trad veteran students, international students. And so it starts to get really busy over the weekend. The first day of school is August 20th. And we do also host a makeup orientation. So if anyone's not able to get registered up until the first day of class, just know that we do have some programming first thing in the morning on the 20th as well to help them. So for pre-orientation and for pre-registration, some things that I wanted to highlight is that we continue to do really heavy outreach. A big shout out to my team and everyone who's been kind of communicating with our students. The main things that we've been reaching out about are logging into the pre-orientation, math and writing placement, making sure that they lift all of their immunization holds. And that also includes any holds from any other campuses. So sometimes we might see a hold from MSU Billings or Great Falls or something like that. And we've been doing a lot of outreach there. We've been reaching out to make sure that students are sending in their college level credit. So whether that be AP scores, IB scores, dual enrollment transcripts, all of those pieces. And then we continue to remind them about their in-person orientation and where they need to check in and whatnot. So we will continue to reach out to these students leading up to the first day of class. Admissions is kind of managing communication up until the 20th. That's our last final day. We send them one last email kind of saying good luck. And then a lot of outreach starts to continue to be managed through NAB MSU and advisors and folks that are kind of in the halls with them and making sure that those students are supported throughout their first few weeks here at MSU. So this is the pre-registration timeline that I was highlighting. So ultimately today and tomorrow, we are going to be cleaning up pre-registration. And so we hope to get through more and more students, but ultimately have already had just over 700 that we've been able to successfully register. So a big thanks and shout out to everyone that's been involved with pre-registration efforts. From here on out, as I highlighted, there are some things happening this week, including move-in, as well as our orientation session that kicks off the 17th. I'm going to show everyone the student schedule here in just a moment and then send out the final like pretty version this afternoon, the PDF version, so everyone can have that. I have been sending out calendar invites to folks. My big ask and recommendation is that everyone continue to check their calendar invites, because if I do update a location, then that's where I'm going to send that information off to and make sure that that always matches what's printed on the schedule. So that's a big help for me. Okay, so for orientation session 4, some kind of like general housekeeping items. A lot of our students are going to be based on major for the way that we kind of corral them through these sessions. And so the biggest thing is that we ask students to know their college and their major throughout this program, because that helps them get to and from places. We are going to be hosting around 500, 600 parents and family members. That program does still have separate sessions. For orientation 4, there is a little bit more overlap with student and parent sessions than they maybe have had in the summer. And so please keep that in mind, that there might be a little bit more of, in your sessions, you might see more students and parents together as opposed to separate, but they ultimately do still have sessions that are just dedicated to students and just dedicated to family members. Residence halls for our orientation 4 students, they've been asked to submit an early arrival form through their housing portal. That allows them to then move in on the 16th. And then from there, our goal is that majority of our orientation 4 students be completely moved in by 10:30 on the 17th. So then they can kind of dedicate time and resources to the orientation program. Both dining halls are going to open up over the weekend. Their hours are going to be 7 to 7. If students are staying here on campus, their dining hall plan and meal plan kick off, so they can just start eating in the dining halls once they've moved in. For students that are residing off campus or maybe parents and family members, I will mention that on Sunday, the 17th, a lot of the sub food services aren't necessarily going to be open. We are going to have the coffee shop open on that Sunday, so there's going to be extra grab and go options, but we're also encouraging family members to check out the dining halls. They can pay at the register or they can go to local options and walk around too. But Chick-fil-A, Union Market, some of those food services are going to open starting on the 18th. Parking for those that are living on campus, they hopefully have purchased a parking permit. If they're bringing a vehicle, they can do that through their parking portal. If they are living on campus, they have a kind of credential that's been provided to them by housing as well as our team so that they can pull up, unload their things when they're moving in, and that they're good to go on that 16th. And then for anyone that's living off campus, or maybe if a parent or family member is dropping them off, we do also have a credential for them that we've provided that allows them to park around campus for those few days leading up to the start of school. But it is the goal for parking services that students have purchased their parking permit by the first day of school, and they want to start enforcing that throughout the first week. So we encourage people to either use these credentials or make sure they have their final parking permit through my info. Parent check-in is going to be in a different location than our students. So parents are going to be checking in sub 233, 235. For anyone that's witnessed orientations 1, 2, and 3, it's identical. It's going to be in the kind of down the hallway past the Ask Us desk. We do then have our students checking in Normas Bjornson Hall. They check in by alpha group based on their last name. And so that does look a little bit different compared to our summer sessions since those were checking in down at the halls. So when they check in, they have the same materials that they receive, such as their schedule, the booklets, their RAR. One thing that is a different piece of paper that they get to receive for this orientation is if they have registered for classes through pre-registration, we give them a copy of their schedule printed out, and that's stapled to their RAR form when they check in. So if they are registered, they will receive their schedule first thing when they arrive. And then we, of course, attach any information about holds or transfer credit as well. The parent welcome is a little bit earlier. It's at 11:30. Students are going to be meeting up with their orientation leader at that time and getting lunch. The student welcome is then at 1 o'clock, and that's going to be in the sub ballrooms. So we do, of course, have things in the morning, but really the big kickoff or the big thing that we're trying to get students to is to wrangle them into the ballrooms by 1, and then we'll start some of the programming with their orientation leaders and with some of our presenters. We do have President Tessman joining us for both of those welcomes for our parent and students. And then we have programming all afternoon leading up to the evening. Shout out to Chris Pruden and the MSU debut team. We'll be doing the food truck rodeo kicking off on that Sunday. And then on Monday, we will be doing a bunch of different information sessions as well as academic advising. So Monday is pretty much all dedicated to academic advising, which will be taking place from 9:30 to 1. A little bit of a change from previous years. We have split the labs. And so if students have not registered for classes, that Monday afternoon time is dedicated to them from 2:30 to 5. If students are registered for classes but want to make adjustments, we're asking them to wait until that Tuesday morning to shift around that one time or that one class or anything like that. So ultimately, Tuesday is a little bit of lighter programming because that all leads us into debut activities. We have the M photo from 3:15 to 4-ish. We kind of corral them over to convocation, and then we'll have first meal directly following that up in the Romney Oval. As I highlighted, makeup orientation is going to be on the first day of school, as well as some of those welcome tents and the social. Later in the week, they have Catapalooza. And then one thing that we do want to highlight is for our bill confirmation dates, for any students that were pre-registered as part of orientation 4, they are not prompted to complete their bill until August 27th. So even though they maybe were pre-registered leading up to their orientation, because they haven't yet seen their schedule and they're not notified until later, they are in that second group of students for bill confirmation purposes. Everyone has to confirm their bill by September 10th. And so we are, of course, pushing those notifications out to students as well as we kind of close out this class. So at this time, I am going to review some of these schedules. So I'm going to pull up our student schedule and go through that first. Then I'm going to bring up the parent and family schedule. What I will mention is that I am currently in the process of building our space grid at the exact same time. So the student schedule is beautiful and the space grid is beautiful. The parent schedule, I'm matching the locations to it right now. So if you see like 1 or 2 little edits on the parent one, that's why, because I'm fixing it with our space grid as we speak. So I'm going to start by doing the student schedule. Okay. Austin, can you see this student schedule? Beautiful. Great. Thank you. So to start, we've talked a lot about move-in and check-in. I will highlight this check-in period is actually shorter than what we did last year, but that's because we were just so dang efficient that we think we can get a lot of students through and that it won't be an issue. We are going to keep everyone updated with any construction that's taking place in front of the sub. But ultimately, what I'm told is that what's currently in place is going to stay in place unless they're super ahead of time, as which they will move the fences further east, which would open up spaces even more, which is great. So for general information, if students want to chat with an academic advisor or change their major, they are going to have the chance to do so once they've checked in Normaz Bjornson Hall. We also then are going to have the Student Wellness Center open during just the check-in periods of time. So even though it's a Sunday, they will have the chance to drop off their immunization records or connect with anyone. And that's going to be available until 10:30 on that Sunday. After that point, they're always encouraged to email or reach out, and folks will always process that information on Monday. The CAT card office is going to be open on that Sunday. If students are residing on campus, they just pick up their CAT card when they moved into their residence hall. It's there at the front desk. If students are, if they didn't provide their photo in advance, or if they are living off campus, they can drop into the CAT card office, which is in the bottom of Miller Dining Hall. We are going to be offering the placement assessments and campus tours early. The bookstore is only going to be open for the second half of the day on Sunday, but then they'll resume full regular hours and everything on that Monday and Tuesday of orientation as well. For anyone that maybe is paying attention to this, we will be using Reed Hall labs for placement purposes throughout the program. That's fun. We haven't done that in a while. So Reed Hall is back in action. We're using the labs up on the 3rd floor for these few days. The program's going to kick off where they meet up with their orientation leader, kind of get organized, go through some of the reminders of the program. They'll head off to lunch, and the orientation welcome is from 1 to 1:50. From there, we divide them out based on their area of study. This basically is the location that we send students based on their area of study, but then there are multiple locations that are not listed on this schedule that are in use based on orientation leaders. So for example, for the College of Engineering, even though Norm 201 is listed, there's about 6 different locations that they'll be using for Academics 1. All of that ends, and then they come back to the sub ballrooms. They'll hear from the registrar's office about CAT course, adding and dropping classes, how they can make changes, how they can log into DegreeWorks. They hear from the bookstore about buying materials on campus. And then from there, we have some afternoon sessions that are not necessarily required for everyone, but an option for students. So for example, if students don't have placement, they're required to go to our assessment labs. If students do have placement, they have the option of learning more about honors, Office of Student Engagement, campus tours, fraternity sorority life, and our MSU debut events kick off at 6 o'clock. On Monday, we have the info table again back out in front of the sub ballrooms. They are going to all work to connect with their orientation leaders and then walk over to Meet Your College together. The Meet Your College time for students is from 9 to 9:30, and then that transitions into advising. Advising is a big old block, but it is up to every single academic unit to determine how they would like to divide their students during that time. And so we've had meetings with advisors to kind of talk about how that might look different based on area of study. But ultimately, that big block of time is going to serve all of our students up until 1 o'clock. If students are not in advising, they will have placements, they can drop into honors, they can learn a little bit more about musical ensembles, and then there are going to be 2 paying for school blocks. So if students are not in advising, they're required to go to 1 of 2 paying for school blocks. That is also then with their parents. We found that works really well with Orientation 4 since it aligns with confirming your bill and some of that timeline and whatnot. And so students and parents together can attend those. They're not required to attend both of them, obviously, just one of them. So based on their advising time, they choose the one that is easiest. Everyone comes back together and then they hear a little bit more about becoming a Bobcat. That's hosted by Karina Beck. We then have information sessions in the afternoon for Army, Air Force, Gallatin College. Those are from 2 to 2:30. Our registration labs kick off at 2:30. The registration times for students are 2:30, 2:45, and 3 o'clock, and we will be having 2 locations based on area of study. So we'll be in either Reed or Jabs. Those are going to be, again, based on their area of study, but we will kind of have home base in Reed Hall. And so anyone from the registrar's office, math, chemistry, we've had help from physics and modern languages and whatnot in the past. They're all going to be in Reed 301. For anyone that wants to make adjustments to their schedule, they'll then be invited to do so the next morning on Tuesday morning from 9 to 12. There are going to be afternoon sessions as well at 2:45. So if they'd like to, they can hear a little bit more from Access and Success, pre-law, pre-vet, pre-health, disability services, veteran services. And then we ultimately reserve Monday night for housing because that's when they do their floor meetings if students are living on campus. So ultimately between 6 and 9, they connect with their floor and connect with their RA. On Tuesday, they wake up, they have their final session, which is a safe place to call home in the morning. And then they have 2 different things if they're interested that they can head off to. They can either go off to Paying for School Part 2, or they can go off to our schedule adjustment labs. That is going to be the exact same locations for the exact same colleges. And then we have registration times or adjustment times, I should say, running every 15 minutes from 9 to 11. So it should be a pretty steady stream. In the afternoon on Tuesdays when we have the M-Photo convocation and debut. And then we do list on this schedule some of those debut events that take place on the first day. So the welcome tents and ice cream social. On the back, we list out a whole bunch of info for them for changing their major, things they should do at any time. Once they're registered for classes, we give them a whole long list of contact, and then we ask them to do our survey to provide us feedback on their experience. So as you can see, it's a really full schedule of events. It's really heavy on Sunday and Monday, and then a little bit lighter on Tuesday as well. Okay, I'm going to do the parent schedule now. Cool. So for the parent schedule, as I mentioned, I'm like updating 1 or 2 of these locations. So everything should match and be beautiful when you get it in an hour. Ultimately, check-in for parents takes place in the Strand Union Building, 233, 235. They have the same morning information available. They can then head off to lunch at any time, but the big parent and family welcome kicks off at 11:30 in the ballrooms. From there, there are afternoon sessions that include majors in academic advising, parents as partners, which is hosted by Matt Kairis. We have afternoon sessions so they can learn a little bit more about class registration or hear from admissions about some final reminders. In the afternoon, we also host Nitty Gritty. That's hosted by our orientation leaders. And then these afternoon blocks are going to be the exact same that you've seen on the student schedule. So that includes fraternity sorority life, Office of Student Engagement, honors, and campus tours. On Monday morning, the very first thing that parents can do is go off to Meet Your College. These are all going to be in the same location as the student Meet Your College. So they're back to back for our academic units. And then at 9 o'clock, they head off to health and wellness or hearing a little bit more about student success. They can also write a letter to their student that morning that's going to be available just during that time block. We will have the 2 paying for school blocks at the same time, as well as a campus resources for safety session. And then in the afternoon, they can hear a little bit more from the MSU bookstore or any of the same offerings that we have on the student schedule. So things that are a little bit more specific to student population. So whether that be disability services, pre-vet, veteran services. We will be doing the parent and family reception at 5 o'clock on Monday. So that's going to be over in Bobcat Stadium. A big thank you to parent and family, as always, for hosting those throughout the summer. Tuesday, we have it pretty light because so many of our parents and family members have ultimately typically left at this point. And so we do include the paying for school option for day 2. And then we do also have convocation or first meal listed as well on their schedule. On the parent schedule, similar to students, we list a whole bunch of stuff they can do anytime, as well as a bunch of resources. My big asks or reminders to campus partners is if there's anything that's really unique that you think we should include on these schedules for students and family, such as being closed during certain times or only having certain events or things like that, please let us know so we can make sure that that's included and that's reflected accurately when we have the big long list of resources as a whole. So I know that was a heck of a lot of information to go through, but I am going to jump back into the PowerPoint here really quick, and then ultimately we'll open it up to some updates from campus partners too. Okay. Do you see my PowerPoint, Emily Edwards? Great, thanks. So one last thing that I always just like to highlight is a big thank you to so many folks across campus who always focus on enhancement and opportunities to improve our sessions and schedule. These are just a handful. I could go on and on about the things that we do throughout the year to support our students. Some big ones would be that we hosted listening sessions in the spring. So we had the chance to hear from various units about opportunities to enhance partnerships or new ideas or provide feedback, which was cool. We incorporated the college lead role into our orientation leader program, which has been a tremendous help to both myself and my team and our coordinators. It's been a really big success and we're really happy with how that's gone. We've modified some aspects of the parent and family programming. So that includes new sessions, but also confirmation letters that they've received, the fee, some of those different details kind of administratively that happen behind the scenes. We moved our writing placement mechanism into the EdReady system, which has alleviated a lot of confusion for our students and kind of streamlined some efficiencies there. So a big thanks to everyone who's helped with that. We have moved a lot of our event registration into our new CRM as well. So Aaron in particular on our team has done a lot, as well as Nick, to make sure that that has been successful. And we're still kind of working out some kinks, which is fun, but that's been a really big lift. And then ultimately with pre-registration, we always continue to enhance, whether it's advising rotations or auto-registering students during 1 through 3, looking at how our reports take place throughout the year. So lots that I could highlight, but a big thank you to everyone who's made this year a really big success. And we're just going to continue that leading into the next couple days. So my big reminders for folks, for anyone that's kind of supporting the academic side of the house or advising, please use our tallies, our OneDrive. We are going to have math and writing placement that updates overnight, of course. We are going to do a special EdReady load the Friday before. And so we will catch students on the regular Tuesday load, but also catch any new students that have registered for classes that might have been missed. And then we will be printing RARs on Friday morning. For presenters, please double check your calendar invites. Please look at the schedule. Please double check with my team if you have questions. And then for everyone, please just make sure that we're ready to, show off campus. If you see a sign that's knocked over, pick it up. If you see a fruit snacks wrapper on the ground, throw it away. Orientation is like a big lift on behalf of everyone, and so many folks across campus work to make sure campus is ready, but it really takes a village. So thank you in advance for your support in that. I do share out my cell phone number, so if you need to get a hold of me during orientation, I'm not usually sitting at my desk, but feel free to use that cell phone number and call me if there's anything that I can do. At this time, I've talked so much, but I do want to give some of our campus partners the opportunity to give updates to this group since there's so many moving parts as well during orientation. And so maybe we'll start with advising. Emily, do you have some things that you want to kind of highlight for the group or things that you think would be worthwhile for everyone to be reminded of?
Sure. Thanks, Shannon. I think for advisors and those who run into a student or a family member during orientation and you're not sure where to send them, in it beyond the schedule and what we have listed, a lot of our advisors are offering drop-in times during not only the orientation program, but through the first week of classes. This past year, we've updated our listing for advising on our website. So I'm going to share this link if you want to have it bookmarked. This might be helpful if you have a student who is just like, I need to go talk to somebody and you want to help direct them. We really want to try and minimize the students going from place to place around campus. So if we can get them to the right office, that would be great. If you're unsure, if still based, even after you look at the website, if that's the right place, call our main university studies office at 406-994-3532. We can confirm like, okay, yep, we do have an advisor in art who can help the student right now. Let's get them in touch with Paige instead of sending them to the US office if we're unable to assist. We will offer, as Shannon highlighted, a makeup orientation for those students who either are deciding to come to MSU late or maybe planes or travel plans got a little messed up and delayed their arrival on campus, or maybe they really needed to go shopping at Target one last time with their family, which I'm pretty sure I've heard that before. We'll have advisors available to help those students because we want to make sure that they're feeling confident and comfortable in their classes as they get going. One kind of exception there is our transfer students. We want to make sure that they're connecting directly with their home department, not just a general makeup orientation or a US advisor, because oftentimes we need to review transcripts with those students. So in those instances, that contact list that we've shared with you there will be helpful. And thank you all. I can absolutely believe that it's happening already because it feels like we've been talking about it all summer, but here we are.
Thanks, Em. Some updates regarding Gallatin College and some of their orientation. They hosted their final orientation August 4th through the 6th. And their orientation, it's online and it's self-paced for students through Cats Connect. If there's any students at this point that have questions about that, whether it's adjusting their classes or maybe they're not yet registered or something like that, Lindsay Bueller is the most direct contact, and I can drop her information in the chat as well. They are going to continue to communicate with students. They use Reach as their CRM as well. And so they're communicating with students through the start of school about any onboarding items and whatnot. And then they did mention that specifically for the aviation waitlist, they have a specific email that they want everyone to email. So I'm going to drop that in the chat for folks too. While I do that, I think I saw Corinne on the line, or maybe Jamie Green, to talk a little bit about housing and move-in and maybe give an update about students coming back to live on campus.
Yeah, thanks, Shannon. So Shannon covered the big highlights. Orientation 4 students will move in on Saturday. They don't have an assigned time that they have to move in or a window. They're able to move in anytime on Saturday. We do always have a handful of students that are moving in on Sunday before programming. Those are usually like local students, or more local students, I should say. Our staff will be around. Our offices will be open, like Shannon mentioned. Just maybe a point of clarification, when Shannon talks about CAT cards being at the hall front desk, that's if they've uploaded a photo. So our CAT card office will be open. We're going to do our best to get those cards printed into the desk so people don't have to go wait in line. But it does take a minute to print all of those, and people have a tendency to upload and then come and grab them. So we will have extra help at the CAT card office, and we'll kind of have a station outside of where Miller, where you go into Miller between North and South Hedges, where folks can check in about if their CAT card has been printed or where they might find it. Most of our move-ins will happen on Sunday. And so by the end of Sunday, we will have the majority of our students in. We'll have our staff. We're working with parking. We work with grounds every year. So we're all ready for folks to move in. We've got great volunteers. If anything comes up during the move-in day where someone is just not having a good experience, if you can give us a heads up, that would be awesome. Like Shannon said, it does take a village, but every once in a while, something slips through the cracks, and we want to make sure we have a chance to make it right. So we have plenty of staff around. Our whole director team will be around all weekend. Shannon often has some of her orientation leaders wandering around on Saturday to answer any questions. We just try really hard to make sure that it's a smooth process for our orientation students to move in so they can get up to programming on Sunday. We will have a handful of students, not that many, in what we would call additional housing or temporary housing. We're down to about 20 women, which is not bad at all. We've opened with way more in temporary housing, so we should be able to move folks pretty quickly. All of those students have been contacted by phone, email, and a text, so they know what to expect. They still might be a little bit nervous, and we're happy to work through that with them, but most of our students that are in additional housing will be moved out within the first couple of weeks. That's typically what happens. I don't know, Shan, if there's anything else you wanted me to cover, but that's pretty much the rundown on move-in.
Awesome. A big thanks to our folks in housing, because they're trying to manage a lot while also helping our orientation efforts. So, Ryan Christensen, I think you were also on the line. Do you have anything that you want to share in terms of bill confirmation or when students are getting to campus? Anything that's worthwhile to highlight there?
Yeah, we should note, is my audio coming in okay? Are you guys able to hear me? I'm kind of.
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, sorry. A little silence, so wasn't sure. So the original initial deadline for anyone registered before August 1st was the 8th. We've just kind of pushed that out to this coming Friday, the 15th. Everyone in orientation 4 that were supposed to be in orientation 4 has been flagged, so they're not getting bills at the moment. And their deadline technically should be the 27th, I think is my other deadline. Need to check that real quick. Yeah, 27th. So they'll start getting those bills when I run it. Probably a week from Friday is when these students will get their initial bill. But their charges are on file, so some of them look up their accounts and see all of that. And so if there's people that are like, wait, why do I have charges? Why do I have registration? Naturally, of course, send them to the right people. I think you guys, everybody's been reviewing those registration beforehand this week. Scholarships, I know, is a little bit behind on getting scholarships checks processed and refunds going out initially for students. So there might be a couple of days delay on getting refunds started. We were supposed to start that Wednesday. I realize it doesn't have much to do with the current orientation class at the moment, but that might be delayed a little bit as scholarships is just rushing to finish getting their awards on. Beyond that, this year is the 2.85% credit card fee that is new. And so, of course, we'll be talking about it during our presentations and such. But if there's questions, you can refer them to my office. And I think that's everything for us.
Awesome. Emily, can you hear me? Okay, that was so weird. It just kicked me off for 2 seconds, so I got really nervous. But I'm sure everything Ryan said was really exciting. So, and then one other update from campus. I wanted Chris Pruden to be able to talk a little bit about debut and some of their welcome events that they have. Chris, do you want to highlight stuff for folks? I know he was
Yes.
on the line. There he is.
Here I am, ready to present about debut. Really excited to see everybody here. Yeah, MSU debut is a big thing on campus that we're all familiar with. My specific part of that thing is the engagement events. So the other parts of MSU debut are orientation, move-in, and convocation. And so the engagement events are kind of historically what people have thought of as MSU debut, but we're kind of wrapping it all together now. I'm going to share my screen just so you all can kind of see where I'm going here. Hopefully you can all see this, but this is, if we go back to the MSU debut page and then go to events, this is engagement events. This is how you can find out what's going on. And as you scroll down, you can see that we started off on August 17th with Food Truck Rodeo. This is a newer event. We've done it over the last 3 years, but it's been a really awesome collaboration between University Student Housing and Office of Student Engagement. And yeah, we have a set number of meals that we buy out for these food trucks so that most students that show up at this event will eat free. Really exciting. A new event this year on Monday, August 18th. We have Story Mill Lawn, the Community Welcome Back Picnic. This is an off-campus student life event. So new event, we want to bring our students that are living off campus together in one spot and sort of welcome them back, make sure they have the resources they need and have a great time with some local music and food. Tuesday is a big day that Shannon already mentioned, and a lot of teammates contributing to this, including the whole University Student Housing team. But we have the M photo, convocation, and first meal all kind of in a row. I don't post times here just because this is highly choreographed. The 99% of the students involved in this are going to come from a residence hall, and they are being instructed on when to leave and where to be. So generally speaking, that's who we're targeting. Wednesday, we're really excited to have our partners in academics help us with the first day welcome tents. I think we have around 8 to 10 locations around campus, which would be great. And this is just to really help students find their way first thing in the morning on the first day of class and welcome them back. And then really excited to host President Tessman at the ice cream social event from 11 to 1 that day. Thursday, we have a little bit of a lull. And then Friday, we're back at it again with a huge day, Catapalooza, happening from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then we're going to transition Romney Oval to a concert venue. And this year, we're going to be hosting Pecos and the Rooftops, which is a really exciting sort of alternative country band. They actually just played in Bozeman at the Elm, and I think it'll be a really big hit with students. So that'll be a big day, wrapping up pretty late. And then Saturday and Sunday, we have some off-campus events. Service Saturday as that first one, MSU debut Service Saturday, and my colleague Kim Cleary is really helping put that together. And then we're heading up to Paint the M on August 24th. So yeah, big week. I am more than happy to talk more about this with anybody who has questions. And also I have some marketing materials for the concert, Catapalooza, and the Food Truck Rodeo. If anybody wants to help me spread the word, much appreciated. Just reach out to me via email, and I can get you some beautiful graphics that were lovingly crafted by University Communications. So that's it for me, unless anybody has questions for me.
Thanks, Chris. So at this time, if you haven't already chatted in questions, if you have questions, I'm happy to answer those, chat those in, and I'm happy to address them aloud. My big reminders as we head into this week, I did record this meeting, so I'm going to be sending out this with the schedules, updated tally information out to folks this afternoon. We do have students register for orientation up until the 5th day of classes. So please make sure that if you're communicating with students after makeup orientation, that you still get them to come through register for orientation, and then we really help facilitate getting them to their advisors so they can get a class schedule as soon as possible. We will also be doing a whole bunch of reports and follow-up in conjunction with advising and housing and whatnot to make sure that if students are here but they're not registered, or if they're moved in but they're not a part of orientation. And so we make sure that all of those pieces kind of come together seamlessly, and we'll be supporting those efforts through the 5th day of class. We're communicating with students up until August 20th, until that first day. So if you need anything from us, we're including everything in terms of reminders and whatnot in those emails. And if you have any questions, you can always contact me directly. You can email orientation@montana.edu. We'll make sure that everything's good to go. But it really does take a village. We say this every year. It's something that I think is quite impressive, how all of us are really allowed and able to work together so seamlessly and make sure that all of our moving pieces come together with such synergy. So I really appreciate everyone playing a role in welcoming our new incoming class. Hopefully it's a good sized one. So we're really excited. Thank you so much. I'm going to stick around on the line if you have questions. Otherwise, I'll give you 8-9 minutes back in your day, and then keep an eye on your email. Thank you. Go Cats, Emily says. Yeah.
Shannon, I just want to stick around for a moment, just say thank you. It takes a special talent to be able to keep track of all this and organize and facilitate it. And you've always done so wonderful over the years. And I know
Ryan.
Mike and I talk about it from time to time. And I don't know if kind words are as helpful as more money. So I send you more money vibes.
Thank you. Appreciate you a lot. Thanks, Ryan.
But okay, looking forward to it, and always love doing the presentations. So I'm sure it'll be a great time. Excited for this class. We'll keep the energy up.